Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Live and Give show. I am Hua Win alongside my co host and lover, Dr. Jaime Gonzalez, and the beautiful Maria Coleman.
Hey guys.
Sorry we missed last week's episode, but we will tell you in a bit why. But today's episode, we are going to talk about what fuels you to level up to the next level. So, super, super excited about this episode, but we have a quick little intro for you all.
Welcome to the Live and Give show with Dr. Jaime Gonzalez and Dr. Hua Win. Join us as we share our experiences and those of other experts in their fields who've discovered financial security while creating a pathway towards giving back to others.
Well, I guess the sound did not go on this time.
I think it did.
I don't know. If you heard sound, please write in the comments because we did not hear sound. Well, anyway, we are working out the kinks, right? We are working out the kinks. Well, welcome everyone.
It's a great video. It's a great intro video.
Check out our YouTube channel. By the way, we will put the link to our YouTube channel down below. All of the previous episodes that we have recorded are now there. And we will also be linking our website so you can start to follow on social media. But yes, you can absolutely look at the introduction video there if you didn't get to hear it today.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow that up. It's a podcast is not so easy. We've come to learn, so people that have been doing it for a long time, man, we give you a lot of props. And, but this is our 11th episode, right?
That's right.
So, but it's getting better, each time with the quality and the sound and,
we're working
the connection. So yeah, man, by the time, we're at, 500, I think we'll get it down.
I think so.
Pretty good.
And shout out to the people that have helped us along the way. You know who you are, but we have some folks, Ken Walls being one of them, sharing some feedback on how we can do better, what we can do, and always with
Neander
Lima.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Well, let's kick it off today. So, the topic about what fuels you, right? So each one of us has a different driver of what really helps us move the needle forward. And I think it's so important to identify what fuels you and drives you to wake up, to do the things to get us to the next level, right? To even if you're in the motion of, oh, I feel like I'm doing pretty well, what motivates you internally? Because I think the key to growth is it has to be an internal driver that fuels us to want to elevate, to grow to the next level. So I'm going to let you start, lover. And what specifically for you kind of fuels you? And I know you have your routine of what your morning habit, but what really is your deeper driver and why?
I think it's changed within time, so whenever I was in my 20s, it was just like, going out, right? So let's see, how many dates I can get, in a certain amount of time or whatever. That's like so shallow, but I mean, that's what fueled me back then. No, and then in your 30s, whenever we got out of school and we started to practice, so money fueled me, so it's again, that's not very deep, right? So it's taken me a while, to okay, what is it really that actually is fueling me, and how I can, pass that down to other people, right? So, and it's not easy to kind of, think of, okay, what actually is fueling me, right? And throughout all this, I believe in God, so. And that's one of the things that's been consistent with me. But what are the things are fueling me? And now it's like, how am I able to be the best version of myself every day, right? And so I can be the best version of myself for other people, so I can help other people, right? So what are other ways that I can help them? If it's either educational or financial or philanthropy work. But how can I show up and be my best self? Right. And again, there's, like you mentioned earlier, yeah, I do have a process, but that's what's getting me to that point. Right. So, but yeah, it just, how can I be the best version of myself, and how can I
Yeah.
give, the best
I
for me?
appreciate you because, you say it where it's a different phase. Like in your 20s, what fueled you was very different than what fueled you in your 30s. But you're only 29, right? Wait.
28.
Wait a minute.
Biohacking.
No, but today what fuels you is very different than what fueled you when you were younger. And I
Mhm.
appreciate you being honest about the different drivers and what fueled you at each phase of your journey, right? And the deeper. And I think that's important because we discover deeper layers of ourselves, and there are different drivers, and our why changes through our journey of life as well.
Mhm.
So, and when you said, oh, dating back then when I was in my 20s, right? And girls and then money, right? And that's just being honest about what was the driver back then for you, right?
Mhm.
Um,
And it's a lot of the times it doesn't change. For some people, they don't develop, a bigger, deeper why, right? So, and what really does fuel you, and why are you on this earth? Why are you here? There is a specific reason, why people are on this earth. Every single one's different, right? But just kind of figuring that out, and hopefully earlier than later. For me it was a little bit later, but I think I figured it out, right? So, and I mean, just working on myself in every which way I can, that way I can help other people and kind of teach them what I know now,
mhm.
and so they don't have to experience all the obstacles and things like that for them. So
And what about you, Maria? What's your deeper fuel?
I have so many, and like Hyman mentioned, and I'm sure that goes for all of us, that it's very different throughout the
Dating?
different stages. Yes, but not only that, if you consider the environment, right? I think you say, well, what fuels me changes. Well, my why may change, but your environment, the place where you may be. So, for example, it was cool to go on these dates when it was in college, when you were in college, for example, or making money right out of college, trying to grind and hustle. So I think that it just really depends on the day. And we're going to talk a little bit about different types of motivation. So there's intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation, and when to leverage both of those, but how that's not the entire piece of the puzzle. There is more to motivation, because some days you may just not feel like it, right? You just kind of wake up on the wrong side of the bed, and today's just not it. But in terms of, for me, I think what Hyman mentioned, my deeper purpose, my deeper passions, my family, my desire to really make sure that my mom and dad feel like they did something good for us when they brought us to this country. I think that always is a defining factor for me, and a driver for sure.
No, great. If you're watching, share with us what fuels you, right, to get up, to get to the next level, to want to improve yourself, to become the best version of yourself, to get to that next level. I always say there is always a next level for all of us, right? Whether that's personal growth, whether that's business growth, whether that's relationship, whether that's spiritual. There's always another level that fuels us. And there are different drivers. Sometimes it can be a negative driver from a point of pain that drives us to avoid that pain. But then there's also an inspiration where it can be a positive driving force, where it pulls you instead of pushes you, right? And it can be by inspiration. And so the environment is super, super critical, like you mentioned, because when you put yourself in different environments and you open up your heart and mind into a whole nother level of space, and hearing other people's stories and the mission, it fuels you. Like I kind of said, when we went to charity work or mission trips around the world, when we come back, that is a positive driver. That's an example of a positive fuel of wanting to get to the next level. Where my younger years, a lot of my fuel and driver was to avoid pain, right? To get away from the things that I was experiencing as a child. But those are both very powerful methods of fuel, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes it encompasses both your challenges and the inspiration side to
Mhm.
move the needle. But the goal is, and the key is to really hone in on that urge, that urgency of knowing like, okay, I've got to do something now, that I'm capable of changing my internal world in order to move the needle forward, regardless of what else is happening around the whatever circumstances you're in. And so it's easy to look at someone and think that they've got it all figured out, that they're in a different situation than you are. But know that we have come across a lot of people from all walks of life, all different financial backgrounds, um, who were able to still create the life that they're living now because of that fuel, that burn, that like ignited heart, that there is no stopping them, that they were going to figure out, how they're going to move that needle. The how comes later. Once you get that why and that burning desire and passion, the how will come. You will figure out who you need to get to know and the how and all of that, right?
Mhm. Yeah, and like you said, there has to be that why, right? So we like to practice, with us and other people, like the 7 levels of why, right? So it's like usually whenever say, why are you passionate about your work, right? Well, it's great money and supports my family. Usually that's not the reason, right? And because you're the first answer, usually it's like up here, right? And then if you ask, well, why is it important for you to make good money and support your family? And that's the second why, right? Then the second answer starts traveling down a little bit. And then after about the fifth answer, that's whenever most people, from what we've experienced, they start getting emotional, right? Then that starts to travel a little bit further down and deeper inside. And then after about the sixth or seventh answer of why, you're just repeating what the person is saying, right? After about the sixth or seventh, that usually tells you pretty close to what your true why is. So if you do have a true why and you're asking yourself this or practice with your partner or with your friend, then that's really going to get to the point, of what really is fueling you to be, here on this earth or, on the episode, it's to level up on whatever category, you're working on, right? Whether it's personal growth or whether it's, job, whether it's, philanthropy or, so that's what we like to do. Right. So, and that's getting to the true why. And then again, we post it, somewhere, we write it somewhere, and then so you can hone in on, okay, this is my true why. This is why I'm really doing it. So, and things, within time are going to change and evolve and things like that. So, and your true why can change, right? So from one year to the next. So some people, like to do it, on a yearly basis. Some people a little bit more, disciplined, like to do it probably every quarter, right? So, but yeah, that's what I like to kind of work on. Some of the things that, yeah, how am I going to level up? Okay, well, answer your true why and practice that, right?
That's so good. I love the fact that there's emotion involved in that. Many of us know that emotion is energy in motion. But what that series of 7 questions has allowed you to do, it has allowed you to associate what you're saying and what you're thinking with what you're feeling. And Dr. Joe Dispenza says, right, that thoughts are the language of the mind and feelings are the language of the body. So I think that exercise of writing down that why post, doing that discovery exercise allows you to, when you read it again, it allows you to connect that feeling. and furthermore, motivate yourself to, even if you don't feel like it, to actually get the job done that's necessary because you're on track to leveling up.
Can you expand? You had mentioned the intrinsic and extrinsic things.
Sure.
Expand on that a little bit.
So the way that I like to look at it, when you're considering intrinsic motivation, that's something that comes from within. It's that exercise that we just did. What's your real why? What drives you in terms of your family and making money for your family, to provide for a good household, to provide care should they need it, those kinds of things. However, there's also the possibility of having extrinsic motivation where somebody from the outside is motivating you. One way to look at that is maybe a physical trainer. Maybe you say, I don't really want to go to the gym today. It's not really there, but your trainer's waiting for you. And so the fact that somebody else is kind of holding you accountable, then that is motivation that's coming from outside. And they say that different people, based on your personality, based on your experiences, you might work best with intrinsic motivation. That might just come naturally to you. You wake up, you know what your mission is, you know what you're headed to do. Whereas other people might need that accountability partner, and it's okay. It also has something to do with maybe what you're motivated to do. Maybe one thing is the eating well and exercising and do those things, and maybe you need that accountability partner. But maybe to fulfill your dream and start your business, maybe you don't. Maybe that's coming from within. So I think just take a minute and figure out, do you tend to go for a walk just because you want to go for a walk, or do you need that partner that's kind of texting you and saying, hey, are we going today? And that'll give you an idea of what type of motivation drives you.
One of the exercises that one of my transformation coaches had me do was he had me draw a circle. So I encourage you to do this exercise to kind of evaluate where you grade yourself in the different pillars of your life. So he said, draw a circle and make like a pie, right? And divide it up and label it, personal health. And that personal health is subdivided into physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, right? And then the next sector is going to be finances. So within that finances, that's your business, your career, whatever other things that brings in the revenue, right? And then you're going to divide relationships. And he wanted me to break the relationship into 2 subsections of relationship, where it's relationship with your significant other, and then relationships with your, peers or friends or external other family members, right? And then he said, I want you to then, on the other kind of like I think the last pillar was, we had health, we had business, we had relationships. And then let me try to think. Was there another? I think those were the big ones pretty much. And then he said, grade each one where you are right now. If you had to be honest with yourself, put a number from 1 to 10 where you grade yourself to be. And then within the next year, what you would like to be. And so that was an exercise where I had to be honest within each subsection. And then we were going to see what, if I was grading myself, say a 4 or a 6, and I wanted to be a 9 or an 8, what were going to be the steps within this next 12-month period to execute, to make it happen. And to break it down to each subsection was super important, because what I realized was, for the most part, I was doing pretty decent, but it was heavy weighted on a lot of the business side. And what I lacked a lot of was more my health side, right? And that was why I had reached out to him, was to improve on my health side, which in turn, as I improved.
That was not on your top 100 from what
no.
you told me.
Yeah. And
top 100 reasons.
No. So because I've always been very driven, career driven, I've always been very career driven, and like my family and career are like what I focus a bulk of my energy and what I've done most of my life. That fuels me, that gets me up. I want to make sure I take care of my family. I want to make sure that I have my, I'm building my businesses, and then my career. I've worked so hard. We've spent so much time in education and investing our time and money. And so that's always been top things for me. And so I didn't realize subconsciously, though, that what was carrying me down was eventually my health caught up to me, right? But when he had me do this exercise of listing out my top 100 values of my actions, of what drives me, and none, like health did not come on the top 100 at all. Any form of health, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, the top 100, it didn't even make the list. And he gave me an opportunity to review it 3 times. And he was like, are you sure there's anything important to you? And I'm like, be the case? And I said, well, I'm not really sure. And he goes, because health isn't even on the top 100 of your value list. And so, sometimes and I was like, wow, I didn't even realize that, right? Subconsciously, I'm like, oh, that's true. But over time, the things that I took for granted, because all my blood work has always been good. I don't take any medications. I've always been really good, right? But eventually it started catching up with me, right? And so health was a category that now has been the biggest driver. Now I was like, okay, I need to reshift my priority and focus, because if my health is not good, everything else is actually being impacted. My relationship is getting impacted. My businesses are getting impacted. My focus is getting impacted. My energy levels getting impacted, right? And so I really took the year to really try to figure out, okay, I need to focus on my health, right? And what do I need to do to slow down and reshift my priority? And the byproduct is I will improve in all the other areas, but I need to take time for me and improve on my health and the why I need to do that. And I realized that my why for health was always avoidance of pain. I would get on a health cycle because I didn't want to get, I gained some weight, or I wanted to, it was a very, it was selfish. It was kind of like, oh, I'm on a yo-yo cycle because I've gained some weight, so I need to lose some weight, right? It was always driven by weight, right? It wasn't really health. It was a weight thing, right? And then it was like, oh, I want to get better because my daughter, I want to be around for my daughter. Oh, because my husband, he's healthy and I want him to be proud of me. And it was for all the wrong reasons. He goes, those will never last you. That's why you're on a yo-yo cycle all the time, because it's never for you, right? Until you figure out why you're doing it is solely for you. And the byproduct is it's going to be your daughter gets a better version of you, your husband gets a better version of you, and everybody around you gets a better version of you. But until you truly in your heart and soul do it because of you, you won't keep up the habit. And that was an eye opener for me. I'm like, dang.
No, and this particular person that was helping Hua, Sir Kaya, if you're out there, thank you so much. I love you so much. And he is like super fit. I mean, this person plays rugby, no pads, tackling and hitting hard. And, so he's very, very well in shape. And he's like, man, she's not seeing what my number one is, but some people don't, right? Mm-hmm. Some people never do, right? They're probably not in the top 100, but we talk about health so much, and that's, that affects so many things, right? But at the same time, whenever I would talk to Hua and I would bring up health, it's very difficult.
It's a sensitive topic.
So it's I can't say much to her, even though I love to study, nutrition and health and longevity and, all this other stuff. And it has to come out a certain way. Right. And like every time I say it, I'm like, oh crap. Did I say it right? Did I say it wrong? And should I have Athena say it to her? But yeah, it's it's tough for a lot of people, man, especially now. It's like,
it was hard for him because he was like, why would you go hire someone and pay them top dollars for a transformation coach when I know all of this? I've done the research. I live it. I'm living proof of it. mean, we educate patients. I mean, this is my wheelhouse of passion, right? But what I tried to explain to Jaime was it had to come from someone else external. And the reason being was because I associated that the people that I love the most, I'm most sensitive to, right? And even though it came out of a place of love, and, I would take it a different way. And so that type of constructive criticism to me felt like he was judging me. And so that's why it automatically like shifted my mindset, like, oh, does he feel like I'm not enough? Or does he feel like I'm not, and he's only trying to help me, right? But it took my coach really working with me and explaining it and realizing, and it was all for my childhood. Again, if my mom said anything negative, even though I did 100 positive things, that one negative comment or remark made me think like she judged me a certain way and I wasn't good enough. And so Tony Robbins talks about, there are two things that most people really fear, right? And that drives them or pulls them away. And one is the feeling of not feeling good enough. And the second thing is not feeling loved. And those two things were very sensitive for me, right? Not feeling loved and not feeling good enough. And it was a trigger, right? And what Sir Kaya told me was, it's nothing to do with really Jaime. It's a trigger point from something in your path. And because you're so close to him, the people that are external to your world, whatever they say, it doesn't even faze you. Like, you don't even care. But if your mom says something and if Jaime says something, because they are the people who are genuinely in your heart and those are your inner circle core people, that what they say, you have a huge sensitivity to. Right. And so he helped me identify what it is, the trigger, and what I can do to move forward from that and to change as soon as I get that negative emotion, how I can deal and cope with it and reshift it. So when I came home and I was working with Sir Kai, and I told Jaime, okay, I'm open to now. You can tell me, like, I'll ask you and you can give me some advice, and I won't take it the wrong way. And he was like, I don't know about that. That didn't go so well these past years.
Is this a trick?
Is this a trick? Don't fall for it. But this is just one example of something that fuels me to really do better. And it's always a work in progress, right? Still. But then I realize, when I get off a little bit, I realize the why, right? I realize why I want to do this. And it's not for Jaime. It's not for my daughter. It is intrinsically for me, right? Because my physical health, my physical well-being directly impacts my emotional and mental well-being, right?
1,000%.
Absolutely, right? And so getting back into that headspace and doing all the things, that's why these routines of the breathing, the meditation and prayer, and I do that just internally a lot, but it helps really get me to that next, especially if I'm in a funk, right? To be able to get up, get out, change the environment, change my mindset. But you can't just lay in bed, because it's easy to just want to lay in bed and I don't want to do this, right? And your mind starts playing games. But if you start forcing yourself to get out of the environment, and I always focus on one thing. Anytime that I'm having a really bad day and I'm in a really negative space, all I focus is, I'm going to speak to one person. I'm going to help that person out. And immediately I shift. Immediately I get out of my dark spot and I just focus my energy. I'm going to focus on one person that I'm going to help today. And that gets me out of my funk.
Such a good strategy.
How about you, Maria?
So actually, I just want to acknowledge you, because it takes a lot for a person to kind of dissect what's going on within your situation. But then the act of you doing something to change that is huge, because you could have met with Sir Kaya and he could have given you a very prescriptive thing to do. Do this, do this, do this. But if you didn't actually change that and take accountability and then actually further come and work on your relationship by way of saying, Jaime, it's okay, and understanding why there was a block. If you didn't do all of that, then you wouldn't be where you are. And so I think that it's important to not only know what it is so that you can change it, but also realize the power that you actually have to change it. You also mentioned, some days we don't want to get in the funk, or we're in a funk and we don't want to get up. if you think about it like this, our bodies were designed to move. So if you're not feeling well, get up and actually change your physicality. Your physicality changes your physiology, which changes your psychology. Just moving, go for a walk, look at nature. It's scientifically proven that will actually release endorphins and make you feel better, and then likely more motivated. If you're not getting enough sleep, obviously that can impact you. But we talked about the things that drive us. For me, it absolutely has a lot to do with my family, but I focus a lot on myself. I spend a lot of alone time, and many days those are before my children wake up or after my children go to bed. Why? Because I do suffer from a little bit of mom guilt, and I feel like if they're awake and they need me, then I need to focus on them. But I watched an episode of of Mr. Goggins, David Goggins, where y'all know, if you know David Goggins, you know that he is, Roger that hardcore. But he said something that made me feel so seen in a podcast with Andrew Huberman. He was saying, I make sure that my family has everything that they need so they can leave me alone. And as much as I love them, I need that. I need that alone time. Have you been fed? Do you need something to play with? Do you need something to draw? You need an activity? So then I can go and do my thing. And I think that sometimes we have to be selfish like that and just give yourself what you need so that you can be a better person to those around you.
Love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you similar?
Well, I love David Goggins, but he's on the opposite side of the spectrum, right?
Extreme.
And some people cannot relate to him. And then we have some softball, hitters over here that are on the other side of the spectrum, that they only want, love and affection and warmth and, not really a lot of implementation. He's all about implementing, right? So he has everything down to a T on implementation. And if anything gets in his way of implementing, he is running through that particular thing or person or whoever, right? Mm-hmm. So kind of finding where you want to be at, right? So if you really, really need a lot of motivation, so maybe start, listening to him, right? So that's what I would do sometimes. But a lot of the times I get so pumped up because of him. And I don't really want to do that at nighttime, right? So I really want to wind down at nighttime and kind of relax and listen to all my, music, mantra, meditation, the Indian meditation type of thing. So that's me. And then some people in the morning, hey, I could do David Goggins in the morning, so that's a really, really good thing to kind of do. Les Brown in the morning is really good as well too. So I don't think we heard what we talked about our drivers or what fuels us. Did you talk a little bit about what fuels you earlier?
It's funny when you talk about the extremity of the spectrum, most people think I would be on the extremity of like, go, do. But my internal driver is actually the very opposite. My natural state is that peace, love, soft side. But by force, by knowing how I grew up, it was kind of like a must. I must, of the avoidance of pain, of the things that I had such a, like, there is a, I must have attitude, right? I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And I'm going to figure out there's no one going to stop me attitude, right? And so there is a little bit of a disparity of what my action, because by force, I needed to do it, right? And then I'm in a different position now. And so my drive is very different because of where I was. And so if you look at my habitual habits, I can go back and really look at how, as a young child, through my teenage, through my college, I was very meticulous, super organized, super go-getter, million to-do list. Like I was an executor, right? Nicknamed hustler. And I reflect, right? But I got stuff done. Like there was no one was going to stop me. Like that, I had the David Goggins attitude and driver of extremity at that young age. But what I realized my natural state of being when I go to these retreats, that intuitively and at my core, that's not really who I am. And it's kind of weird. And so there's a misalignment of my actions, my feelings, and my doing, right? And so that's why it's such a conflict of growth, right? Because my natural state, what do you really, really want? At the core, I just want peace and love.
Mhm.
And everything I do is away from peace because it's a lot of stuff in motion, right? And so that's why it's a little bit, that's why it takes me a long time to do these different things. And at this stage, because I'm no longer in the pain point. And so I'm not that same driver of meticulous and get up and like doing 10 million things. Like I don't live that phase of my journey anymore. What drives me now is like, you know, I want to wake up and I want to feel peaceful. I want to have true love. I want to have that connection, like deeper connection. I suffer with deep connections. People really think that I'm a good people person. But the truth is, it's very hard for me to truly connect on a deep level with people because it takes me time, like I said, to trust in the last episode. And so to truly connect with myself and then truly connect with other people, and that's my family included, right? And so people think that it's easy for me, that I'm deep. No, it takes me some time to truly connect on a soul level with people but that is my driver. I want deeper connection. I want a more spiritual connection with myself, with my higher being, with my family, with my loved ones, people that really like, I want true love and I want to spread that love to other people through whatever platforms of kindness that I have and whatever platforms of things that I do. That's my vehicle. I just want to spread love and kindness, right? But I wanted to come from my core. And so, although all my different achievements and accolades and the things in career paths, I am passionate about it, right? But I'm also very careful that I'm not doing 1,000,001 things where I feel like it's spreading me too thin away from my level of peace. And so that's why the alignment of trying to figure it all out, of getting like I have this passion and this dream. I had this dream the other night that I was in a stadium talking to about 100,000 people. And it's a wild dream, right? It's a wild dream. But I listened to so much Les Brown. I listened to so much Ed Milet, Zig Ziglar, and these people who are such inspirational speakers that in my home, that I can listen to them over and over, that these can help me fuel me to the next level. And that's what I like. That's my true aspiration of all the life lessons and experiences through our businesses, and through things that we've gone through so far. I want to package that to be able to share a message, to be able to inspire and uplift others and become an inspirational speaker like these mentors and people that we listen to. Like, I want to be that person for somebody else. My little voice goes, "Wah, how the heck are you going to ever be able to do that?" Right. But then I was like, I don't know how, but freaking I will do it, right? I will figure out a way to get it done. So what drives me that every time that my heart gets resonated, that's what drives me, right? And it could be one person. I don't even need a huge 100,000 people. Like I go to a small luncheon. I don't care if the luncheon is 10 people, 30 people, 100 people. Like if I have one person tell me that, man, that really uplifted me, or I needed to hear that message today, or that really inspired me, that's enough. Like that makes me feel really like that fills my heart. And that gives me love. That gives me peace. That gives me my inner drive, right? And everything else is a byproduct. Money's important. Yes. Health is important. Yes. Like all these other pillars of my life, they're absolutely important. But at the core, that's what I came out with, like my deep, deep, deep why. Like that's what I really want.
You heard it here first.
Peace and love.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for being so vulnerable. I think many times we think that we have to have it figured out in front of our friends, in front of our family. But I think that spending time with yourself, I know that you journal, right? So if you journal, consider that one of your prompts. I think it's okay for there to be a discrepancy, but it only comes by way of self-awareness. And self-awareness only comes by spending time with yourself. And spending time with yourself only comes when you don't feel guilty about doing that. So I encourage you guys to find that time. Maybe it's on your drive to work, or maybe it's on your walk, or maybe it's in the morning before everyone wakes up, that you just spend some time by yourself and figuring out, what am I doing? Some days we do a job to collect a paycheck, but it's okay if that's what you have to do right now, but know that there is something else that's waiting for you. We talk a lot about what lights you up. People want the genuine you that loves what you do. Maybe that's writing songs. Maybe that's, playing music. Maybe that's creating beautiful landscapes. Whatever that is, we want to see that authentic you, and they want that from us as well. So I encourage you to find ways, because I think that that's a driver. Once you really, really know what makes you light up, that is your passion to help you go out and seek that. You also spoke about how Sir Kaya gave you this idea, or this mapping, right, to what you need to do. And once you realize where you are versus where you need to go and the necessary steps to get there, if you focus on that small step, sometimes we get consumed with the fact that we want to boil the ocean. We get stuck in all of the things that we want to do, and it just seems too grand. But the light of the sun only burns when it's focused. So that's really when you're going to be able to move the needle. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just to kind of follow up on what you said, finding a space like before you wake up, or what I like to do, it's a little weird, but I go right before bed, I go inside the closet and I turn off the lights. I put on the little music that I was talking about. But I and Athena know whenever 8:30 comes, I will not be with them, so just kind of creating that time for you, letting people know, hey, this is the time I'm dedicating for myself, for you, right? And so I'm in there for 30 minutes, usually 30, 40 minutes, and that's just me, right? So, and then I take, like you mentioned, I take my walks. I go, early in the morning, and, right before around 7:30, I take my walk, but I'm winding myself down. I'm lifting myself up. I'm, praying, I'm having that gratitude part or piece working on. So consistently, you have to work on yourself, because there's so many things nowadays. There's so many issues, so many problems. The news is like, that's another thing, so, but you have to consistently do this, because if you don't, you will get just sucked in everything else, and everything that, is busy, that life is throwing at you. So it's very, very difficult, just to be at peace with love. And if you don't work on yourself, that's just very, very difficult. You have to add some personal growth, whether it's with a coach, or whether it's, by yourself, or with a family member or partner, but finding a way of, helping yourself. Right. So again, because the way I think of it, it's like, the more I learn about myself, the deeper I can, explore other things, the more I can help other people. If I don't learn anything about myself, I am very basic. I'm really not able to help a lot of people, so I don't have much knowledge. But I'm just very simple. I'm not very interesting.
Yes, you are.
No.
If you don't work on yourself.
If you don't work on yourself, right? So it's like back whenever I was 20 years old. Okay, what do I have to offer? Nothing. It's like, come on.
Rubber bands. Jaime was always a very positive, uplifting person. He's always has been.
I had that mindset early on, but it was, I was not working on myself back then. I had no personal growth. I had really not many people to look up to, so, but you have to go out there and look. It's not going to come to you, right?
Right.
So everything's not going to be fed on a silver platter, right? So you have to get out there and work on yourself. Dang it.
Yes. I was at a power luncheon the other day with Bill Walsh, and he asked me to start the event off and be the speaker. And then we had a surprise celebrity guest. His name is Glenn Morshower, and he's an actor, inspirational speaker. I mean, he's been in over 240 films and movies. And, he was sitting right in front where I was speaking. And so I'm gauging the room, and, believe it or not, before I speak, majority of the time, I don't have anything prepared. People think that I have a speech prepared. You'll never hear me say the same thing twice when I go speak. But I kind of felt the audience, and immediately I saw him, and we had met him in a mastermind in Orlando a couple of years ago, right? And so I was like, whatever resonated and came to my heart at that moment. And I had about 15 to 20 minutes to kind of talk. And, after I did my speaking, and he came up to me and he really gave me a lot of words of encouragement, that I just really did an exceptional job. And he goes, and I'm not just saying that because just to say that to be nice, you really do have a way to connect with people, right? And I every time I hear it, it's an irony because I have such a hard time connecting with people. But somehow through my talking, it resonates with people, right? And so when he came up to speak, some of the highlights of what I took away from him was, he talks about our level of what we expect out of our life. He goes, your life where you are right now and in the future will never exceed what your life expectancy of it is. And so if you expect and your dream and your vision is only a certain amount, your actual life will never exceed that. So our own limiting beliefs cap where we are, right? And he goes, there are 4 rooms of life expectancy. He goes, room 1 is going to be where all the naysayers and the no's, right? Where you really don't believe that you're going to be able to get out of where you are at. Room 2 is going to be your maybes. Maybe not negative, not positive, but just it's maybe, right? Room 3 are going to be the people who are going to be, most likely, right? I'm going to more than likely be able to do things, right? And the room 4 is going to be the inevitability. Like, absolutely, yes. There's no such thing as pursuing my dream. He goes, do you go and ask somebody, would you like to pursue dinner with me tonight? No. You say, would you like to have dinner with me tonight? So why do we say, I'm going to go pursue my dream? That in itself already sounds like it's out of reach. Mm-hmm. He goes, change that. You're not going to pursue your dreams, right? You're going to have your dream. You're going to you already need to make it a reality for yourself. And what you expect out of your life is about where you're going to get capped. And he goes, that's why it's so important that you hang out with people in rooms 3 and 4, because you're hanging around a lot of room 1 and 2. You're never going to make it out to the big space. And that's why it's so important to the possibility of what else is out there. We limit our own capability and our belief. Mm-hmm. And it starts there. It starts in the mind. It starts with around the people that are actually executing and doing. Not only are you motivated to do what you can do, but what are some resources? What are the action steps to get to that next level? And that's why your environment, not just your network is your net worth. Your network is your life, right? Is your next level of life, right? Because all your other areas of your life can be elevated, because believe me, those people in room 3 or 4, they're elevated in spiritual. They're elevated in family. They're elevated in their values. They're elevated in their health. They're elevated in their growth. They are hungry. Hungry. Right? And so you got to get around people who are like, they're going to elevate you. They're going to support you. They're going to tell you like it is. If it's not a good idea, or if it is, what are the resources? And they're going to support your dreams. They're not going to laugh at your dreams and be like, sure. Like, how are you going to ever get there? Right? They're going to connect you with people. If this is your dream, I know somebody. I can introduce you to X, Y, and Z. And that's why we invest in ourselves to get in these rooms, right? That's why it's so important to get out there, right? And elevate and what fuels you, right? But that's, so Glenn really, I didn't know who to expect or what to expect. There is no expectations when I go to these speaking engagements. I already know when I show up, I'm going to come out better. I'm going to learn, grow, and do something better every single time because I expect that for myself. I don't care about who else is going to show up, but I expect that I will learn or I will give or something positive is going to come by me showing up. And that was part one of my talk, was showing up. And not just showing up, but being present when you are there. If I've already invested my time to be there for the next 3 hours, I'm going to sure as heck maximize that 3 hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just be present at least for those 3 hours and know that I'm going to gain something and also give something, right? And so I want you to come with that mentality to show up, but not always just show up. Be positive, open mind, open heart. Know that you're going to learn something and, be open to giving something there too. Trust me, you're one step ahead of somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever you are one step ahead of somebody else. Trust me, right? And you can teach the next person whatever you already currently know. You don't, without going to learn anything else, whatever you currently know and have, you can help the next fella, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so have that mindset, but that was something that I really enjoyed. So thank you, Glenn, if you're watching. That was really, it was his birthday. It was his birthday and he showed up, right? And asking for nothing. He just came and just gave from his heart. And anybody who had questions, he was there to give value, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I learned a lot just watching. I always just watch the actions of the people who are super successful, not what they say, but watch their actions and how they interact with people, everyday people. That will tell you a person's character.
So good. So good. There's a lot to unpack in everything you said, but I want to touch on two things. One, word choice. Word choice is so important. You mentioned the word pursue. Think about what happens when you chase something. Naturally, they're probably running away from you, right? So think about if you're pursuing your dream, the likelihood is that even subconsciously, you're thinking that it's so far out of reach. So thank you for just highlighting that. Another thing that I feel resonates is the power of mentorship. You spoke about investing in yourself. I have a great mentor, Gary Kramer, who says health, wealth, and relationships. He is super, super successful. And if you really think about it, your body, your temple, this is what's going to allow you to do all of the other things that you want to do. So we have to respect it, and we really have to treat it in such a way that we know that it is our most valuable resource, our most valuable tool. Because they say that, you can have all the money in the world, but if you have a nagging toothache, you're not going to enjoy all that money, right? You're going to be focusing on trying to get treated for that. So when you were talking about the potential, also where we are versus where we can be, Dr. Emily Letran, who is a high performance coach, she often talks about how we get stuck on where we want to be, right? Our potential versus where we are. And so you really need to figure out how to move that needle. Maybe it's getting into those rooms with people that have done it before that you can see yourself in, or maybe it's someone that can just see that potential to kind of draw it out. So great.
That was fantastic. I got a lot of info. I'm taking notes from what you're saying. So no, and that's actually good for us doing the show because we learn from one another, so because some conversations we go, a little bit deeper. But yeah, I'm loving this episode. So
I've got some quotes. These came from our Kyle Wilson. He gifted us. Kyle Wilson used to be partner with Jim Rohn. And, he did a lot of his events and everything. And so we're part of his inner circle. And he gave us this little booklet called The Treasury of Quotes. One is from Jim Rohn. And one is called Big Quotes from Zig Ziglar. And so I'm going to read one from each of the books that I'll share. And then each episode will share some of these quotes that are applicable to our life or to our episode. But this one's from Jim Rohn. The quote is, "Humans have the remarkable ability to get exactly what they must have. But there is a difference between a must and a want," right? So when it's a must, you will show up differently than when it's just a want. Now, Zig Ziglar has another one that I really like. He says, discipline yourself to do the things you need to do when you need to do them. And the day will come when you will be able to do the things you want to do when you want to do them. Right. And so I think those go hand in hand with, when we're talking about motivation and actions and the must and our drivers and what fuels us to elevate to the next level, right?
Mm-hmm.
To go out and get it. But any last words for everyone, Lover?
Peace and love.
One, when I was a little girl, my dad, one of the ways that he would motivate me is he would use this phrase, and it's in Spanish, but he says, "Échale gas, Nicolás." And that translates to "give it gas, Nicholas." And it's so fitting because we're talking about fuel. But yeah, just, thanks to my dad. All right.
No, that's great. So, thank you everyone for joining us. Again, if there's any topics in the future you want to listen to, please let us know. Right. And other than that, we will see you next week, Mondays at 11 Central. Thank you for joining us. Bye, everyone.